So I'd like to welcome everyone. Welcome today. I've just seen a great range of people joining from all over the world, a kind of truly almost global webinar we have going on today. So I hope you enjoy what we're going to go through today. And as always, we will have time for questions at the end, but feel free to be putting things in the chat box along the way. So we've titled this webinar today, Leadership Flexibility. It's linked to our Manchester Leadership Development Programme. So if we do our introductions first of all, I'm Dr Dane Anderton. I'm the Programme Director for the Manchester Leadership Development Programme. So I'll be taking you through kind of the programme architecture and so on in a moment. I'll hand over to Jo.
Hi, I'm Jo Blaine. I look after the marketing of the programme.
And Kieran.
And good morning, everyone. My name is Kieran. I work with Dane and Jo on recruitment for this programme.
Fantastic. So thank you very much for those introductions. And if we just move on to the next slide, what we're going to take you through today is a brief introduction, which Kieran will lead on flexibility challenges. And then I'll go into kind of more detail around the programme that we have on offer today. And then we've got time for question and answer. We hope to keep this as short and punchy as possible. But again, all questions welcome. Please put them in the chat box. We will be monitoring them, or feel free to come on camera at the end. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Dane, and thank you everybody for joining us this morning, or sorry, this afternoon. So we're going to talk a little bit, first of all, about the challenges that we're facing right now in terms of flexibility, flexible working, and how lots of people are having to do things slightly differently. So we're going to begin with a poll. This is going to be an interactive session. So I'll just start the poll. And this is going to be on how challenging, maybe an obvious question, but how challenging has it been to lead during the last 10 months? So if you want to take a minute, have a read through the answers there and pick the one that's the closest fit to how challenging you found it personally. This is anonymized. We won't be reporting on this, so please feel free to be as honest as you like. So we've got, let's have a look. So we've got about 75% people, 79, 80% of people have voted so far. Last couple, I'll just give it a couple more seconds and then I'll share the results with you. So closing the poll now, and hopefully you should all see the results there. So the results that I can see here is that 52% said moderately challenging and 35% said extremely challenging. Well, it's hardly surprising, but there are a group of people for whom they didn't find it as challenging as the rest, and that's possibly because they were already perhaps doing things differently, or maybe their business hasn't changed in quite the same way. So thank you for that. That was really useful, a really useful insight. It's been our experience that that people have been finding it more challenging. We hear it a lot in the clients that talk to us, so it's good to have that reflected back from you today. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to look at the three areas of what's called like this forced flexibility arising from some of the challenges that we're all facing right now. And those involve challenges to leadership, challenges to working practices, ways of working, and ultimately challenges to a lot of organizations. So just very briefly, let's look at the challenge to leadership. Well, for a lot of people, they're now shifted from leading face-to-face, being in the office, seeing colleagues, to leading remotely. For some people, you may have had to change your leadership style to adapt to that. Several people are having to change their hours, and certainly a lot of us are having to change our expectations of what can be achieved in the normal working day, or indeed the normal working week. For many people, we're hearing a lot more, they're having to rely a lot more on their emotional intelligence skills as leaders. You know, it is quite a hard environment out there at the moment, and there's plenty of people who don't necessarily find it easy. So, you know, leaders are being even more compassionate than they normally are. So it's putting pressure on people to maybe flex their styles in ways they're not necessarily used to. Looking quickly at ways of working, well, I don't want to use the word unprecedented. Whoops, there I did it. But normal rules do not apply anymore. Things are changing a lot. Things have changed in the last 10 months, and they're going to keep changing on into the new year. So we've seen remote working, what's called hybrid working. And for a lot of people, the blurring of boundaries. What is home? What is work? When do you start one? When do you stop the other? For some people, that's meant feeling like they're always on, even at 11 o'clock at night. And for other people, it's meant the struggle of juggling, you know, caring responsibilities, or indeed homeschooling if children are sent home in isolation. So it's a really tough time for ways of working, as we know. But finally, for organizations as a whole, the challenge is triple for the organizations, because it's happening to customers, but it's also happening to employees. Organizations are all affected by this in different ways. So everybody, including organizations, needs to adapt and flex to the changing needs of their clients, the changing habits of purchasing behavior, the changing services that people need to avail themselves of. So those are just sort of 3 examples I just wanted to touch upon. So what happens under all this pressure if we can't flex our style, if we can't adapt, if we can't find new ways of doing things? Well, speaking from personal experience, what tends to happen is you either try and do everything as you always did, but in very difficult circumstances. So that can just become a task overload. You can sit in front of your screen and move from one task to the next, to the next, to the next, without those usual sort of social interactions, those natural breaks that you would find in the working day. And for a lot of managers, they're really stepping up. They're doing phenomenally well. But let's remember, they're human beings too. They're feeling the pressure, because as well as they're dealing with their employees' hassles and difficulties and challenges, they're also addressing their own. So you've got to spare a moment for all the leaders and managers out there who are doing a sterling job. And it's time for another poll. So with that in mind of having to flex and having to change your style or adapt, I'm going to ask you to complete the next poll, which is around leadership style, which you should be able to see on your screen now. We're asking you the question, how much have you had to change your leadership style in the last few months? Has it been changed completely? You know, you don't recognize your leadership style. Changed significantly? You've made a few changes. Not very changed at all, just a few slight tweaks. And how many of you are already working in a way that actually, do you know what? You didn't need to change, you've adapted. It's just how you roll, it's how you do things. So I'll leave a couple more seconds for some votes to be cast. We're up to about 85% of people have voted. I wonder what the prediction's going to be. Changed completely, significantly, or slightly, or remained unchanged. So I'm going to end the polling in 2 seconds, 1 second. Okay, so what do we think of the results? So change slightly is the top poll result there with 68%. 24% change significantly. Well, you can look at those two numbers and add them together, and it's hardly surprising. Everybody has kind of had to be forced to adapt and forced to flex in the face of these changes and these challenges. So I'm just going to stop sharing that now as we go on to the next slide. So people looking at the first results of the first poll, big challenges out there, very challenging. Look at the results of the second poll, people have had to flex and adapt. But we know there's further challenges and further change ahead. 2021 is going to be a very disrupted year. So the question now I want us to think about is, how do you get the space whilst you're juggling these things and work and home? How do you get the space and support and the skills that you're going to need to continue that flexing and adapting to a constantly changing environment? And as again, we will move to the last poll of this lunchtime session, where you get your chance to say. So, and we've tried to be realistic about this. So how will you get the space and the skills and the support you need to carry on that flexible working style, that flexible leadership? Well, you might rely on yourself. You might be self-taught. You might say, I'm going to look and I'm going to research. I'm going to teach myself how to flex through podcasts, through TED Talks, whatever. It may be that I'm going to ask other people for help. I'm going to ask my manager, I'm going to ask my HR department, I'm going to ask my L&D department. It may be that you're actually going to attend a training course or a development course, a bit like this course today. Or it could be that it's not going to happen. You know, with the best will in the world, you're going to really struggle to find the time and find the space that actually the pace of life and the pace of work is not going to slow up. So I'll give it a couple of minutes because it's quite a complicated question. Have a think about, you know, that space to actually step outside the business for a moment and look at what needs to be done rather than just being on that conveyor belt of doing. How are you going to be able to do that in the next 12 months? So I'll give a couple more seconds, closing the polls in 2, 1. Right, very interestingly, overwhelmingly, most of you said it's going to be a combination of self-reliant, self-guided, you're going to ask for help, and you're also going to look for some certain selected leadership programs. And without judging it, it does look an eminently sensible move, that sort of blended approach of looking for help from different sources. So I'm going to stop sharing those results. And with that in mind, we've had those 3 polls about challenge, about flexing your style, and about having the space. I'm going to hand you back to Dr. Dane Anderton as he's going to talk about the Manchester Leadership Development Programme and how that might fit in with those needs.
Thank you very much, Kieran. Yeah, so it's some interesting polls there, some interesting information that you've shared with us in the session already now. Building on the flexibility aspect here, what we've done at the moment with our Manchester Leadership Development Programme is respond to that need for flexibility, and it's nice to see that so many of you overwhelmingly say it's a combination of learning from others, which is a really big thing. Part of it's your self-driven learning in these kinds of realms, but also looking for some directed learning as well through courses. So the Manchester Leadership Development Programme offers a lot of flexibility, and it's trying to tackle needs that are kind of prevalent in things like the industrial strategy, whether that be at Greater Manchester level or at a national level as well, but also looking across the globe as well. We have people joining from all over the world. Productivity is always on the agenda of many governments, many organisations around the world. Especially here, just speaking from the UK's experience where we are currently based, you know, the UK is not the best at productivity in certain areas at the moment. We kind of lag behind many of our other advanced economies. So looking at that, what are we trying to do with this particular programme here? So if we can move on to the next slide. We're looking at that flexibility, but we're also looking at giving you time. Many people, including myself, we spend so much time working in the business, on the operations, the doing side of things. And sometimes we don't get that space to work on the business, to kind of step back, get that kind of peer support, get the ideas bounced off other people in similar situations. And this is what we're trying to do here. One of the key aims is to give you that opportunity to work on the business, to kind of say, well, here's this new knowledge from my peers, from academics, from other practitioners. How can that help me work on my business, on my team, my organisation, and deliver organisational, but also, again, thinking about you, your personal impact, which leads us on to the second point here, around sharpening your skills as well. So making sure that you are able to tackle novel challenges, you are geared up. You know, leadership and management is a skill set in itself. Okay, it's, you know, as many people are technically competent within their roles, sometimes we find ourselves as accidental managers possibly, or in management roles because we're very good at what we do, but then that's taken us away possibly from what we're very good at doing and put us in a leadership and management role. And if we don't tackle that skill set or understand it effectively and learn inside that skill set and therefore get qualified inside that, then these are some of the root and cause issues of low productivity, again highlighted in an Office of National Statistics report pointed to in the UK context, but looking at other reports from organisations such as the Institute for Leadership and Management, the CMI, a lot of these organisations are pointing in the direction to say that leadership and your management, if you're to be this flexible person, this adaptable person, then you've got to ensure that your skill set in this discrete discipline of leadership and management is such as well. So the programme aims to get you qualified. We have an island qualification, which I'll come on to in a moment. But learning more flexibly, we are offering this in an online format. We are offering it rather than a big block course of a release over 5 days. We do have that option if that's what you wanted, but we've also got a flexible option to study this every other week over a 9-week period instead. So it fits around your organisational needs as well. So we are responding to how organisations, how people want to study, when people want to study at level 7 or come and take up some leadership and management courses. We've got to be flexible in that delivery as well. But also we've attached to this programme is that development through coaching. So understanding again those conversations, as you've rightly said in the poll previously, your leadership and management skills, your leadership and management styles are developing through yourself, through others, through peer networks, through things like coaching is an option for that, but also as well through undertaking courses around leadership and management as well. So if we can go on to the next slide. This is a little bit more detail about what we would cover in the Manchester Leadership Development Programme. So enrolling and coming onto this course would mean that we focus on you to begin with. That's your leadership. We have a Hogan psychometric attached to the programme as well. It's the only psychometric which is accredited by the British Psychological Association, which looks at you inside your workplace and your key traits, your motivations, values, but also how you perform well, but also some of your potential derailers. Lots of information online if you want to have a look at that as well. But then we look at you and you in the team. because we all know you can't do everything yourself. And if you've watched any of our webinars over the last couple of months that we've done over the lockdown period in the UK, and then these were broadcast again on Zoom and then uploaded to our YouTube channel, you'll find, you know, that the leader cannot do everything, but it's about making sure that you've got an effective and efficient team around you to help plug those gaps. And that's why we start with you at the beginning on leadership. We also cover strategy, innovation, and project management, and I'll dive into these a little bit more in a moment. But once those are the core 5 modules that we will do on the programme, then we link that to an ILM Level 7 award, where you get the opportunity to look at a business opportunity or a business issue that you're currently looking at, an organisational problem or organisational opportunity, depending what kind of sector you are from. And we give you the time and space to take the learning and translate that into impact. And that's the key about the programmes that we want to design in executive education here, which this being one of them. It is about deriving impact into the organisation. And then to top it off, to make sure that you are kind of focusing on yourself and your development as well, we attach coaching to this particular program to see what you can get out of that, and make sure that, as again, going back to what you're saying, it's about you, your peers, and courses as well. So we've kind of looked at all 3 in tandem there. So again, linking back to these aims, giving you the opportunity to work on the business, sharpen your skills, get qualified in a flexible way, and with coaching alongside this. If we can move on to the next slide. So this is how the programme looks and feels in its online format. So as I said before, we still currently are facing restrictions, but that means there are opportunities as well, because we can reach a wider audience. And I'd love to see a cohort or a mix, and we have done in the past, with people from many different parts of the globe sharing their experiences of leadership and management. So what we've done in our February intake here, which is still open for admissions, is we've flipped the content into an online format, ensuring that there is still 70% of this programme delivered in a taught way, with 30% self-directed. But I'll come on to that in a moment. Drilling down into these individual units that we see here. So the leadership in practice, we want to start with you. We've got to understand you. You've got to understand you. You've got to be self-aware. Okay, and that's why we use the Hogan psychometric, and we spend a full day drilling down into that with your peers, understanding self. Before then, we can understand, well, where are your weaknesses? Where are the bits that you don't do quite as well? That's not a problem. We need to know, because by knowing, we can then lead effective teams and develop the talent around us. Leading then into that second session that we will do, we will look at the kind of the politics of teams. We will dive into some of the academic literature around this. What does it mean in a practical sense as well? It's about co-creating these spaces, bringing in that experience as well into this classroom format. Again, I say classroom, let's not think in a traditional way, we're all sitting looking forward. It's very much a workshop space and a learning environment. We then do finance for managers, and don't worry, we're not asking you to do hardcore accountancy. If that's your game, then that's even better. Then okay, you might be able to help us co-create the classroom space even better. It's about, how do we give you the language to speak to your colleagues and understand the numbers, and create a dashboard that works for you for your key performance indicators, to ensure you know when things are going right and how to look out for the parts that may not be functioning quite the way they should be. So we have a very interesting task in this particular unit, where we get you to look at some balance sheets and profit and loss. And on the face of it, you go, nothing wrong with this company. Real company went bust 3 months later after submitting those reports. So can you find what was wrong with it and how you might turn that around? So again, we're looking at the operational side of things, but then thinking strategically within that, which leads us into the strategy and innovation. How do we look at the long term? How do we look at our competitive advantage? How can we look at our team, our own leadership, and how we think and move forward strategically, but also capture innovation or do innovation better inside our organisations? That is going to be a key thing, whether it's in service design, organisational design. Innovation is a whole big ball game, an arena that we can play within. But again, it's about co-creation in these sessions, bringing in your perspectives alongside academic perspectives as well. And the people who teach on this particular program come from industry themselves, have experience still and currently inside organisations in a strategic role. Then we have project management. How do I actually do it? I've done all this, I've been through it, we've been flexible, we've learned all this stuff, we understand we need to do things differently, we've identified potential opportunities or issues in our organisation. How do I deliver on it? How do I get it done? And that's what the project management session is for at the end. How do we bring that together? And that links us then into the work-based project and then the ILM award. So it's about taking the time back again, working on the business, developing the skill set to kind of have impact inside your organization. And supporting that is the coaching element. And even though this is an online course, this is best if I go on to the next slide. Even though this is an online course that we're delivering from February, we have kept the essence of community and networking key to the design of this. There are many opportunities to make sure that we bring you together. We have an induction, for example, before you even start any of the units, to ensure that you're comfortable with the technology, to ensure that you know how to engage. I think onboarding people to programs like this, when maybe you've not been to a university before, can be daunting. Well, we want to kind of lower that barrier. We want to lower that entry point for you and make sure that you are fully aware and able to commit to that community. You've got to be wanting to take part in a community. As you said, go back to those polls. It's myself, it's others, and it's these courses as well. So your peers play a key role in this. But what we've kept as well is the essence of as if it was a face-to-face program, to ensure that this is 70% taught face-to-face. We are still, in terms of online face-to-face, I should say, it's still taught virtually. It's live workshops, it's the doing, it's the going away, thinking, coming back with solutions, it's the applying the knowledge into your current role. But there is a dedicated, self-dedicated time aspect to this, so it's around 30%. Some of this done before you join the course around the Hogan, but also little pre-works in between each of the sessions, so to give you time to start distilling the topics, the content, the knowledge and the skills, and having that impact in your organization in the immediate. And we blend that with online and offline time. We do not want you, and we fully understand, sitting in front of a screen can be as tiring as being in a big long board meeting face to face, if not more so tiring. So we want to make sure we've blended those workshops to allow for online and offline time as well. But the key to this is that reflective element. So working up that work-based project, we use a technique called a reflective practice paper here, reflective practice approach. We want you to create a paper, a kind of a work-based project, which says, well, I'm scoping, I have read the literature, I have assessed a management and leadership issue in my organization. This is what the outcomes were. This is what I'm thinking of doing to develop it further, how I'm going to make recommendations and speak to my stakeholders. Am I going to liaise with my stakeholders and engage with them to get across the recommendations? But key to this again, it's giving you the time to step away from the business, the organization, work on it, develop your skills. But the great thing is getting an internationally recognized qualification from the Institute for Leadership and Management at level 7, doing it flexibly, and also being supported by coaching as well. So we are very familiar here at Alliance Manchester Business School in terms of delivering in a blended format, in a blended meaning, part face-to-face, part online. So we're not doing this as a first come type program. We've been doing this for some time and want to use that expertise to give you that flexibility. I think alongside the program, you will learn a whole host of new technologies as well, which you can use in your own workplaces. Next slide, please. So as I keep mentioning, there are opportunities here to have impact, to have to develop your skills, to have space and support that flexible approach. Given the 5 topics that we do, we always said there are 5 opportunities now to address an issue, to seize an opportunity within the organisation. And those 5 opportunities come through your own leadership, teams, finance, strategy and project management. These are for you to choose and co-create. Work with the facilitators of the sessions. You can work with me as program director. But there's also that radical transformative project that you can do, something big if you wanted to. So it depends how you want to scope this. But that work-based project for the ILM award is the bit that can help you deliver personal and organizational impact and supported with the coaching. So even if you just came to us and you wanted to just do the top elements, the 5 incremental changes, if you like, where I'm pointing these out, there is still a certificate to be had at the end of that program, which is that you've attended a recognized leadership and development program certified by the ILM. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. So in terms of the benefits, again, this is not just a benefit for you, but a benefit for your organisation. The two go in tandem here. And it's about creating that narrative and story to tell your line managers, to tell your directors in terms of what you can look at for progression and moving forward within your role. Whether you're new to a leadership and management position, whether you've been in that position for some time and looking for a refresh, or looking to say, I want that piece of work to kind of demonstrate my impact as a CPD type activity and walk away with a certificate, then still there are benefits here which are mutually reinforcing. So that space again to reflect, these go back to the aims which I outlined very early on. The space to reflect, to be flexible and adapt within your organisation, new leadership, new thinking, to be thought leaders to an extent. That's where we're getting you from. The MLDP programme is a kind of induction, if you like, a taster for what we offer as a full executive education and service business school. But it's about increasing your confidence. We can't forget those soft skills, that business acumen type stuff that we're looking for here to increase your confidence, to make sure that you can get qualified, you can build your networks. These are things which access can have opportunities. We always say some of the best opportunities lie at the peripheries of our network that we currently have. So thinking about your current network, how you might extend it, then those new opportunities can come together as well. But it gives leaders the tools that they need, this programme, and also thinking about the benefits for your organisation. That's what we're here to do, and to deliver that benefit for the organisation, okay? Whether it be third sector, whether it be a multinational, whether it be family owned or whatever it might be. But it makes you a more effective leader. It will make your life a little bit easier if you have the underpinning knowledge and the skills to do things in a more productive way and in new ways, which maybe save you time as well. But it's an investment in future leaders as well. I think from an organisation's perspective, leadership is going to be critical over the next couple of years, if not next decades, to ensure that we seize opportunities, we understand what our opportunities are, but also to transform our organisations to respond to new trends, and not just trends which have come out from COVID, but trends which have been long in the pipeline. So as our generations change, as younger people come into the workforce, as market trends change, as the need to address more pertinent social and environmental issues approaches. But the key thing here again is that that we want to get to a point where the learning is applied and the benefits then are fed back into the organisation. Next slide, please. So I think I'm going to hand over to Kieran to outline our pricing points here and also when we're actually running this. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Dane. So we've tried to increase the flexibility. For some people, they want the face-to-face experience. And as much as we can plan during these COVID times, we are planning a face-to-face course next year in June. Obviously, if the situation doesn't allow that, we'll have to review our plans, but that's the plan at the moment. And that carries with it a price of $3,990 per person. There's an online version that Dane's mentioned that's running in February. The applications are still open, enrollment's still open, I think until the middle of January. And that is at a slightly lower price to make it a bit more accessible. We appreciate that a lot of learning and development budgets for a lot of organizations have been squeezed. So as it's Christmas, we're trying to make a limited offer and say that there is a discount available for bookings that we can take before the end of next week. So that's the 17th. If you'd like any further information on any of the pricing options or indeed the discount, please email me. My email address will appear at the end of these slides. So thank you to Dane for covering the main elements of the program. If you now have any questions, it's a great opportunity to ask them. Dane is the program director. I work on the program. Joe works on the program. So please post your questions in the chat area. Just while you're having a think to kick that off, Dane, I was on a call with somebody this morning who was asking me whether or not, what are the requirements to come on this program? Do you have to have a certain qualifications academically, or do you need to have a certain position? So I don't know if that's something that can you pick up on that question? You're actually on mute.
I'm sorry, I know I need the t-shirt, don't I? You're on mute. Yes, sorry. Yes, there is no formal qualification that's required to come on this program as such, but we would ask you consider the entry requirements we have put on the website, which kind of say ideally you need to be in some kind of management or leadership position, or whether that be new to it or having done it for a couple of years, just to ensure you have the scope to achieve the qualification at the end in particular. So no formal requirements. We're not going to check your GCSEs or equivalents or you need a degree or anything like that. We are open. This is the idea of this, opening this program up to a wider audience to ensure everyone can have access to that leadership and management education and training.
Okay, Joe, I think I've seen a couple of questions in there. I think one from Damaris about capacity, the maximum number, and also from Shahid about the program duration. So Dane, do you want to take, which one of those would you like to take first? The cohort size that we're the maximum number of people.
Yes, so in terms of cohorts, we do try to keep these as small group teachings, but I don't think we would go above somewhere between 20 and 25 would be our maximum limit on this, because I think then that can affect the teaching that we want to do. So we do want to keep these as close-knit, small group teachings, but the benefits of being part of Alliance Manchester Business Schools Executive Education Network is that you become part of a wider network as well. So it's not just I'll only ever see up to 20 to 25 people, it's that you'll still be invited back to events and things that we do at the business school, many of which currently are online as well now. So again, big, massive reach.
We've got another question come in here, Dane, from Gavin, which is, does the course run during the working day or the evening?
The course runs during the working day. What we've done with the February intake, for example, it's only every other week, so it's just one day and it will be a Thursday. We kind of decided for the latter end of the week, because Mondays and Tuesdays, don't know about you, but for me are absolutely chaotic, trying to get on top of the weekend, what's coming at the weekend. So we deliberately went for a kind of a Thursday, one day release at the moment. We have looked in the past at evenings, but it's not really worked as effectively for us because of the need to kind of be in that kind of headspace during a full day. Again, going back to our aim, we want you to be working on the business. You're not coming to us and coming off the job, you are, or away from work. You're still working on the business. We're asking you to come and think about it in a different way.
And following on nicely from that question, I think, is a further one that's come in, which is around the typical number and length of the actual tutorials that you'll be joining each week.
Yes, so there are 5 in total, 5 sessions which run every other week, and those run from around 8:45 till 5 o'clock. So the 8:45, the 15 minutes is kind of let's settle in, let's do the introductions part of that. But they're typically full working day sessions. But there are also supports on our VLE, our virtual learning environment. So that's the place where you can go and indulge in a little bit more detail. So again, we can only cover so much in a period of time. Some of this is then self-directed. As I said, this 70-30, we will get the core messages, the core content through in that workshop space, but it depends on you as well. If you put it's like a gym membership, the more you go, the more you get out of it. So the more you engage with our content online before and after, the more you'll get out of it. And we allow you to see that content, and we give you access to that virtual learning platform for up to 6 months after the program anyway. So you've got those resources, those tools, that academic knowledge and those practical tools to use up to 6 months after joining.
Okay, Dane, thank you. Another question that I get asked is around the sort of the duration. I know it's a question that Shahid asked, and I know that the online program takes about 9 weeks, but is there an extra allowance for the ILM element? You know, that there's a work project involved in that. Does that have to be fitted in the same 9 weeks, or do you get a bit longer for that one?
So you get a bit longer for that one. So again, up to 6 months. So I know some people work at different paces, and we will be willing to accept that project as and when it will be ready. I think realistically, you're looking at somewhere between 3 and 6 months in terms of when that will be submitted. But yes, so in terms of the 5 full working days that we have over a 9-week period, you then get several webinars to support you in that work-based project as well, which kind of act as group supervision meetings as well, to ensure that you're on the right track with that project. Equally, I offer a conversation before you start the program and during it to say, well, what is that project going to be? Let's help you scope it, let's help derive what that's going to be, so it delivers impact for you personally and in the organisation.
Great.
I think we've got a further question, which is another one which is quite often asked for us. So is this course actually available through the apprenticeship, using the apprenticeship levy? And if not, is there any possibility for any sponsorship for somebody to join the programme?
So I can answer the first bit of that, which is unfortunately it's not supported through the apprenticeship programme. The apprenticeship programmes typically have to be over 12 months, or at senior leader level up to 24 months in length, unless studied full time. So unfortunately we can't draw down the levy funding for this type of programme. Whether I know the government's agenda is very much geared on skills and revisiting all sorts of different pathways into upskilling and so on. So that's one to watch, but unfortunately on the apprenticeship levy, no. If I can probably turn to Kieran for the other elements.
Yeah, so as yet there isn't any sponsorship or bursaries available for this particular program because of the way the program's been structured. But we do try and treat every individual applicant as a person. So what I'd suggest is I can have a conversation with you separately about circumstances around the fees and see if there's anything that we can do to support you. So that's probably one best sort of taken offline between myself and that person who made the comment. Does that sound okay? Great.
A further question regarding the online course, which is running in February. So does this still contain the ILM and the qualification and the leadership coaching?
Of course it does. Yes, definitely. That's something that we don't, I said, this program, just because it's online doesn't mean it's any less than what we would do face to face. It just means we are using different mediums. So the coaching is definitely still attached. So that would have to look at that in terms of how we deliver it and so on. So we want to, that would be a conversation we have with you upon entry. But yes, everything else is more or less kept in there in terms of the program. So I wouldn't say it's any less. In fact, there's probably, as with all online, this opportunity to do more in a sense.
I think that flexibility is key, because again, I've been speaking to applicants where they've been saying, look, I can do the Thursday, you know, that one session every 2 weeks, but I'm a bit nervous about fitting in the coaching, and I'm a bit nervous about fitting in the project. And I think the coaching, similar to the project, we give you I think it's about 12 to 14 weeks to complete your coaching sessions entirely to fit your schedule. So we've tried to keep it as flexible as possible.
I think it's just worth noting with the ILM, even if you just, I mean, we've got various different packages in which you can sign up to for this program. Even if you just do the 5 taught units, you're still getting a form of certificate at the end of it as a that you've attended a recognised leadership development program from the ILM, so that it is still certified. But still, if you do go all the way, which I would strongly recommend because of the impact piece on that and the actual then award that you get from the ILM at the end of that, which can then be, you know, upgraded, cashed in, whatever you want to do with it, further with the ILM or through other institutions and learning programs.
Okay, fabulous. Some great, really good questions. And as Joe put in the chat box, there will be opportunities to get slides and a recording of this session. And if you've got any further questions, some contact details will appear at the end of these slides. Just to say, Dane mentioned some webinars we did over the summer. Over the summer, obviously, it was a bit more sort of a public service. We provided some free material taken from this course, and you can access that through our YouTube channel, through our playlist in executive education. And when these slides are sent out, there are interactive links. You can click on those links and look at the different topics to do with success and strategy, leadership and project management, leading teams, and understanding your leadership DNA. So by all means, please feel free to access that material. Just accessing that material. So these are the contact details for the program. It's been a pleasure having you on today, but before we go, I just want to say thank you to Dane, as brilliant as ever, and thank you to Joe, but also from the team here, because we've got the holidays coming up. I just wanted to say thank you very much for your interest. If you've got any other questions, email me directly. Please stay safe and stay well over this holiday period, and the very best of season's greetings from the team here in executive education.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Kieran. See you, everyone.
Thanks for joining us. Thank you.